Hello, and welcome to Viral Stories-19 as we present. Oh, hang on. Alexa, play intro music.
Intro by DaBaby on Amazon Music.
Thinking about my grandmama and shit. I got the number
Alexa, stop. We'll worry about the intro music later. This is Tales from a Safe Distance, a collaborative work created by multiple writers on the theme nostalgia. Let's get started. Graham watched the static on the old TV set. Let the people have their HD, and their multiple channels of rubbish, was how he thought. He turned the knob on the TV's front carefully, the only physical contact he got now. He'd been holed up in his apartment for days already, but not because of the viral insanity going on outside of it. No, Graham wasn't worried about that in the least. In fact, he'd made the decision to stick it out in this two-room dump a whole week before any corona-concerned citizens started flinching at the slightest sniffle or harmless hack. He was finally happy. The biological warfare being fought beyond his walls gave him a perfect respite from his damnable acquaintances. They conflated concern with nosiness, and he thanked the absent gods for their quarantine. There was no longer anything left between him and the old videotapes of his long-dead family. He pushed the cartridge in and pressed the clunky play button. He was instantly entranced by the throng of people cavorting on the screen. He couldn't remember when people had been so carefree, but there it was, the original Woodstock. My love for music didn't come from the guitar. It started with a kazoo. Graham turned toward the voice. Jimi Hendrix sat in the old wooden rocker. I think I read that somewhere, said Graham. Now shut up. I'm watching this. He reached down and picked up his bong. He put it to his mouth and took a deep breath. He let it out and started coughing loudly. Oh no, he thought. He looked over. What he'd been smoking wasn't pot. In his absent-mindedness, he'd accidentally been trying to smoke the ashes of his dearly departed cat, ironically called Smokey. Hendrix shook his head as he faded back into the memories. You used to be cool, man. Graham needed a drink. When he was a young man, before the infamous run-in with Mrs. Bumble and her pet poodle that cost him the best years of his life, he could drink himself to clarity if he tried hard enough. If he was going to fulfill his destiny and bring down this virus alone, he'd have to find his way to the bottom of a bottle first. No civilizations were ever saved by men who hadn't drunk enough rum to make a Victorian pirate see their breakfast again. Roused from his blackout with a raging headache and the sickly sweet aftertaste of vomit lingering in his mouth, he realized drinking his way to a cure wasn't the best course of action. He pushed in an 8-track into the player, one of the best of the series. The beat of My Sharona started pounding in his head. Too much, too soon, he decided, slapping groggily at the machine. He succeeded in stopping the noise, but the headache raged on. Like any sensible, still half-drunk hermit would do, he shuffled shamefully to the faucet seeking hydration. Then, with an abrupt detour of direction, pivoted and reached into the freezer. He pondered his choices. 4 popsicles, 3 fudgesicles, and a pint of Ben & Jerry's Corona Buster Parfait. He went deeper. 40-ounce bottle of Grey Goose. His hand trembled with the thought of a 2-day bender, just like when he was in his youth. Jimmy made a tisk-tisk-tisk noise and told him, Careful with that shit, man. I lost a lot of friends that way. Those were the good old days, weren't they, Jimmy? You want acid, man? ODing is never a good day. It's better than what's happening outside right now, said Graham. A plague, yeah? What? No, it's that a coffee costs $6. Now, why don't you float off and leave me to my purple haze? Graham took a bottle of grape knee-high from the freezer, pulled on some fetching garden gloves, and set to work. Intrigued, Jimmy reappeared behind Graham, along with Prince, and for reasons unknown to all but the universe, the spirit of a goldfish called Bubbles. "See, I told you, man," Jimmy said, pointing at Graham. "He's completely lost it." "You're telling me. Everyone knows you don't mix oxygen and helium like that," Prince added. Bubbles just stood there, mouth flapping. Graham ignored his audience and added a welding mask to his costume, adjusting it tighter on his head and pulling it down to cover his face. Gingerly, with no sudden movement, he crossed to the sink, setting his supplies on the counter to the left. He grabbed a funnel from the top cabinet. As he climbed down the step stool, it tipped, and he landed on his arse, causing much laughter from the assembled spirits. Not the Grey Goose vodka, but it did grin. He hunted down his old butane torch and set it on the counter. Prince, as Prince does, started singing, "We're gonna party like it's 1999. Woo!" Admittedly a bit off key, though not me, of course, just now. I did it perfectly, thank you. But he was just a spirit. "It's 2020, you dolt," Graham muttered. He had work to do. He filled the funnel with the Grey Goose. He figured if Belushi could chug a bottle of Jack Daniels in Animal House, he could funnel vodka. He had halved the contents of the funnel when a dim memory called to him through the foggiest part of his brain. He spat the liquid out energetically and was suddenly sober, lucid even. This wasn't Grey Goose. It was the detritus of his expulsions from when his toilet was on the fritz. Blech. There was only one thing he could do at a time like this. Graham's brain fumbled with the ethical dilemmas of his actions. The spirits all chanting, "Do it, do it," apart from Bubbles, who just swam upside down. He smiled and went to get his best clothes. A day later, he stood outside the Oval Office with the president, who ill-advisedly endorsed Graham's miracle cure. "This cure is fantastic. It tastes of pure kafef with a nutty aftertaste. This guy is going to be bigly successful. Bigly." The spirits roared with righteous laughter, and Graham sighed. Before, he'd chased nostalgia, but in the end, it was returning to his roots that provided the best feeling. Being an utter bastard. That's the end of today's Viral Story 19. Thank you, and we're sorry. Please follow us at 19 Stories on Twitter, and contact us if you want to join the writing and or the reading team. Also follow these good contributors here. They're fun people. Bye!